For those of you who don't know me, and given all the people who came up to me just now, I don't think there are that many. My name is Susan Shine. I was Bill's wife for 37 years, and certainly during his time in Great Neck. So Great Neck is very special to me, as it certainly was to him. I'm delighted that there aren't thunderstorms, but thank you for coming out. And I am now going to introduce the Marine Corps Funeral Honors group, and you will hear them, and I will be back. Thank you all. to the Marine Corps funeral group. It was very touching. I'm happy to introduce, not that you really need her introduction, but our superintendent, Teresa Prendergast, who with her fabulous staff, particularly Colleen Kaneko and a few other people, have been beyond helpful, just great. So I give the podium to Teresa. Thank you.
Thank you for your presence in celebrating the life of Dr. William A. Shine. How fitting it is to be meeting here in the very school named in his honor. As you know, Dr. Shine served as the superintendent of the Great Neck Public Schools for 22 years, retiring at the age of 76. Following his tenure in Great Neck, Bill spent another 6 years working for the Manhasset School District, serving in various capacities, and he also served as a part-time consultant for the Roosevelt School District for an additional 3 years after that. I'll let you do the math. This really doesn't sound like a man who ever retired at all. I believe Bill truly lived by the motto, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Prior to my appointment as superintendent of schools in 2015, I had the distinct pleasure of meeting Dr. Shine that spring during a joint UPTC and SHI Total Community Involvement Forum. Dr. Shine, then Superintendent Dr. Tom Dolan, and I participated in a community conversation about the value of public education in relation to the 200th anniversary of the Great Neck Public Schools. Bill immediately earned my respect as an instructional and compassionate leader who understood that every student deserved a learning environment that met their unique needs. Bill was always generous with his time. Soon after I began my tenure as superintendent, I invited Bill to meet with me in the superintendent's office. This school district was an enormous part of his life, and he shared with me many stories about his time in Great Neck, and he provided sound counsel. But I fondly remember walking the halls of the Phipps administration building with him and seeing the joy in his face when he met with some of our more senior staff members who previously worked under his tutelage. Many would describe Bill as a visionary leader. He understood the importance of building community and having parents and teachers involved in school-based planning and shared decision-making. By having members of a school community working collaboratively in support of our students, Bill knew a shared decision approach would improve the quality of decisions, increase a decision's acceptance and implementation, build trust, and help staff and administrators acquiring new skills, thereby increasing student effectiveness. Over the years, I have had the pleasure of meeting and speaking with Bill and Susan throughout the numerous concerts, plays, operas, graduations, and sporting events they attended. He was the consummate cheerleader for all things Great Neck. He loved our students, and they loved him. Bill created an environment that supported academic excellence while also recognizing the unique needs of each individual. That tenet remains true to this day. Bill was a leader, a mentor, and a friend, and his legacy will live on through the stories of his life and the advice and words of encouragement he provided to others. On behalf of this grateful school community, I extend my gratitude and thanks to Bill's children, Jack and Barbara, his lovely wife, Susan, for sharing their father and husband with us. Thank you.
So now we're going to get the pleasure of seeing a video that includes archival tape that was put together by Rob Zahn, who is working here now, and Bob Gluck, who was working when Bill was here. And enjoy. Thank you. Thank you, guys, for all that you do. Thank you.
Hello, I'm William Shine, Superintendent of Schools in Great Neck.
I had heard of Great Neck as this remote, lofty place, as a lighthouse district. So Great Neck had a long, long, stellar reputation. The icon in Great Neck at that time was John L. Miller.
Why did you come to Great Neck? When did it all begin?
I was aspiring to a big city superintendency.
And the era started in 1982, and it ended in 2004. And there were many things that happened during those 22 years.
Welcome to Focus on Education. Today we're going to discuss health education in the Great Neck Public Schools. Today we'll be talking about the school's special education program. Today's discussion will revolve around parental involvement in education. How about your locker? Was that a problem?
No, not really.
Did you have a locker in the elementary school?
I had one, but it didn't have a lock on it.
Oh, and now you have a lock.
Yeah.
Everybody's vision of every school starts in the classroom. The teachers in Great Neck invest. The teachers in Great Neck have a sweat equity in this district, know it, they're honored for it, and they respond in kind. Our children are well served. The high point of my month is always not the board meeting. I enjoy the board meetings. When there's a shared decision meeting at the beginning of the year, the people focus, and who's there? The teachers at the same table, the parents, and the children, all contributing, all developing their ideas about what the goal of education ought to be in Great Neck. It renews itself annually. That doesn't just happen.
It's typical of the people of Great Neck to support music, athletics, academics, the whole range of activities for young people. Just fortunate to be part of it.
It has been a joyous, wondrous experience just to be in this community, to serve this community, and observe what true community excellence is. A true commitment to public education.
We give you this diploma in recognition of your lifelong achievements in the education of our children.
Aside from this being my last graduation, it is special to me in another way. You are part of a world that has 6.4 billion people, and that each person in that world has a story, and that story is every bit as important as your story. And the only way all those stories can be told is for each of us to become as rich in culture as we can, and as understanding as we can of others, and as competent in what we do as we can possibly be. I thank you for being who you are. I will never forget you.
As our educational leader for 22 years, Bill Shine saw results. How fitting it is to name this Institute of Learning after Bill Shine, where students will pass through, look up at his name permanently etched on the walls, and hopefully continue their own love of learning. It will surely be a lasting tribute to this gentleman who is truly a gentleman and has given so much to Great Neck for 22 years.
Do I sound like I have a love affair with the community? Yes, I do. Do I drive around at night and look at the clock at North High? Yes, I do. Will I now drive by here and look at the name of the school? Yes, I will. But I also go to Baker, to Lakeville, to Saddle Rock, and the village school
because in our village school we have another educational treasure. I'm deeply and profoundly grateful to all of you who have been with me for all these 22 years and for part of it. And I thank you for so much that you have done for me. And there is, and there will always be, an abiding reciprocity of respect, which was the hallmark, I think, of our time together. My love is unbounded.
That was very touching. Thank you again, Rob. And now I'm very honored to introduce Tom DiNapoli, our state comptroller, who made time in his extremely busy day to be here with us. We've been friends for many years, in large part because of the speaker who will follow him. So, thank you, Tom.
I still have goosebumps from that video. Wasn't that something? How about another round of applause for that? Susan, thank you for encouraging us to do this celebration. You're the inspiration for this afternoon. Thanks to Barbara and Jack for giving us your dad all these years. Thanks to Dr. Prendergast and the staff, and the Great Neck Board of Education for hosting us today. It's hard to follow that video. Bill really said it all, didn't he? It was wonderful to hear his voice once again. Now, of course, we know Bill would not have approved of us doing this, right? He's a humble man. He had to be talked into having the school named for him as well, but he obviously got used to that idea by the end, right? But it is, I think, so important that we remember this very, very special person who has such an incredible impact in the life of Great Neck. It was my great privilege to have worked with Bill Shine when I represented Great Neck in the State Assembly. And it was an even greater privilege to have known him as a friend for many more years. As we all know, Bill was the consummate school administrator professional. First of all, he looked the part, didn't he? He always had that commanding presence, and it's great to see his picture again. I guess that Marine, bearing and training always served him well to be an educational leader. More than that commanding presence, though, I admired just how smart a person he was. And he was more than smart, he was wise. I often sought his counsel on education issues, from policy ideas to reactions to legislative proposals to school funding questions. Bill always offered the most thoughtful and insightful advice. Any conversation with Bill Shine was a learning experience. On more than one occasion, I would bring whoever was chair of the Assembly Education Committee to our community for a tour and a meeting with school superintendents. No disrespect to any of the other superintendents, but Bill was always the person who left the greatest impression at these meetings. He had the most to say, and he said it in the fewest words. When Bill spoke, everyone listened. I respected his fierce support of public education as the greatest source for equality and opportunity in our society. He appreciated the advantages Great Neck schools offered, but he was the first to argue that more must be done to provide the same quality education to all students wherever they lived. I recall he didn't take too kindly when a certain former governor of years ago referred to districts like Great Neck as polo pony districts. Some of you remember that, right? Susan remembers it, and his reaction to that. Bill was the best advocate for leveling up opportunities and against tearing down school systems that were providing the resources for good schools. I also remembered visiting schools in the district with Bill. I was always impressed by the strong rapport he had with the teachers and all the staff. We saw that in the video. I also remember the year that he spent time at North High School, and I was amazed at the number of students he knew by first name when he walked those halls. I was speaking with a friend in town just the other day, and she recounted to me how her child had a learning disability, and she felt the Great Neck schools were not providing the services they needed. As a concerned mother, she met with Dr. Shine, and he worked directly with that family to ensure that that student got what they needed. Today, that student is all grown up and is a successful attorney, and that mom credits Bill for making the difference for her child. I'm sure there are many other families with stories like that. Bill Shine never lost sight that the students come first. For me, personally, I always appreciated how he cheered me on as my career progressed. A note, a call, a word of encouragement when we ran into each other in town, at a Bosworth Seder, at one of Rabbi Williams' programs. He always had a positive word for me. And I always felt, hey, if I had the Bill Shine seal of approval, I must be doing something right. As a school district, as a community, and as individuals, we are all the better for Bill Shine having been a part of our lives. May his impact, his legacy, and his example of excellence continue to inspire us and guide us for all the years to come. Thank you, Bill Shine, for all that you did for me, for all that you did for our community. Thank you for the opportunity.
So our next speaker I mentioned is how we got to know Tom. That's Judy Bosworth, who actually worked with Tom when he was in the legislature, before he was elevated to his current position. And Judy was a trustee of the board for a number of years, and also its president. And she had a little something to do with the school naming, despite what Tom just mentioned about Bill being very modest. So I'm delighted that she's here, and please welcome Judy.
Good afternoon. Dr. William A. Shine, his intellect and moral leadership have had a profound effect on us all. He understood and respected the impact words had. Every word he spoke was thoughtfully chosen, and every thought carefully developed. So, I'd like to speak of Bill today, my very dear and treasured friend, at this special celebration of his life, through his words. Many years ago, I spoke to Bill about being nervous about speaking in front of a large group of people. He said, quote, more or less, "Think about it. What do you really remember after you hear someone speak? What you remember is if someone spoke from their heart and how they made you feel. Don't worry about the rest of it." So true. So Bill was not a superintendent who sat in his office relying on others to tell him what was happening in the district. We'd often see him walking the grounds of Phipps, walking the halls of the schools, attending football games, basketball games, concerts, operas, plays, teaching classes, and yes, even serving as principal on occasion. He believed strongly in being available and approachable, something our Great Neck parents in the 80s and 90s took full advantage of. We were certainly outspoken about what we thought needed to be done. Bill worked with us all, but always reminded us to be cognizant of what he referred to as the empty chair. He would say, quote, "I'm happy to work with you to make changes as long as the changes don't benefit one group of students at the expense of another. I'm here to represent that empty chair, that student whose parent is not at the table, the student whose parent may not be in a position to advocate." End quote. It was so important to him that each child in the district had access to the same opportunities. Tom mentioned that when he was speaking. He felt so strongly about his responsibility to each and every child, something he demonstrated again and again. Bill would say, quote, "Everyone is the star in his own drama," end quote. Now, this wasn't said in a pejorative way. Bill understood that regardless of how big or small a problem was, the person approaching him was upset and needed guidance and help. He understood the importance of listening, really listening to what people were saying, and then working with them to find a solution. Never judgmental, always kind. Bill was a true believer in transparency. He would say, quote, "If we have information about your child, you should have that information as well," end quote. Gone were the days of making appointments with the building principals to find out about standardized testing scores. Instead, test results were sent to each and every home. So whether it was dealing with curriculum, budget, staffing, plans for the future, Bill understood how important it was for all information to be available and to then provide opportunities for us to question and reason together. He had great respect for the elected Board of Education and would remind the community time and again, and I see Barbara Berkowitz nodding her head, that the board set policy and he was there to implement it. The board could always rely on Bill to help frame discussions based on pedagogy and common sense. His sage advice was something that could always be counted on. He never took center stage. We could all learn from him about modesty and humility. And finally, I remember Bill saying, quote, "You come into this world alone and you leave it alone," end quote. So Bill, I'm going to disagree with you on that one. In your final months, you were surrounded by Susan, devoted and loving, rarely leaving your bedside, as well as your children, Jack and Barbara, who you were so proud of. And now, here this afternoon, surrounded by so many who appreciated you and admired your visionary leadership, here in this beautiful auditorium in the William A. Shine Great Neck South High School. Dr. William A. Shine, my mentor and friend, a bold, caring, ethical leader who put the community's interests before his own and devoted his life to making our little corner of the world a better place. You will be forever in our hearts. Thank you.
We will miss Judy, who recently retired after a number of years as the North Hempstead Town Supervisor. I forgot to mention that at the beginning, so we will miss her. She was terrific. And now I'm going to deliver a speech written by another trustee and board president who couldn't be here today. This is Larry Gross, who served with Judy, and maybe before, I'm not exactly sure of the dates, but let me give you Larry Gross's speech. Bill Shine was chosen to become Great Neck superintendent at a time when the district was undergoing great stress. Decisions had been made to consolidate schools, significantly increasing elementary class size, and possibly reducing our secondary program by a consolidation of high schools and possibly middle schools. Immediately, he set out to reverse those decisions, increase parent communication and involvement in school life, to revive and enhance faculty morale and renew community support of our schools. The direction of the Great Neck schools was changed. A more efficient senior administrative structure created, and open communication of how the district was providing for each student's individual needs was emphasized. Bill brought shared decision-making to the district well before the rest of New York chose to support this important concept. His leadership in so many other ways provided the stability which enabled Great Neck to achieve all that it has since the early 1980s. One of Bill's greatest joys was interacting with our students, particularly during the time when he doubled up on his work by serving as acting principal of North and then South High School. Students understood his dedication to their success. And Larry says, "I'm sorry I can't be present today to personally express my great admiration and respect for Bill Shine." So, thank you to Larry for writing that. And I'm now delighted that we're going to have some music. We're going to have a piece. Each high school is going to do one vocal piece and one instrumental piece. And we're starting with the North High Instrumental Group. Their names are in the program, so I won't read them, but I thank all of them for participating, and I thank Joe Rutkowski for organizing them and conducting and being the great guy that he is. So enjoy the Bach. Joe, you were doing double duty. That was wonderful, very beautiful piece of music. You're getting a little more of me than planned because Arlette Sanders has COVID in her family and asked me to read her remarks. She didn't feel it was wise to come today, so these are Arlette's remarks. When I got the job as assistant superintendent working under Bill Shine, I was intimidated. In my mind, I always refer to Bill as the Grey Eminence. She spoke French. She said it the other way. Never to anyone, just to me. When I was selected to be assistant superintendent, I was so intimidated that I, in parens, jokingly asked South Middle School people to open a window if I ever waved a white flag. Of course, it was never necessary. I asked Bill what I was to report to him immediately. And his quote is, anything that might be in the front page of the New York Times. He had full confidence in my judgment and never micromanaged. One day, a student at North High School was setting fires, and I spent a lot of time trying to stop it with the administration. Of course, it wasn't the person they suspected. It never is. I was so busy with that I forgot to mention it to Bill. When the dust settled, I wrote him a letter of apology. He tore it up and never mentioned the incident. He trusted me to do my work, but helped when I came to him with dilemmas. Since I was an acting assistant superintendent that first year and completing my doctorate in organizational management, aka educational leadership, Bill kept telling me to go into my office and finish the doctorate. Somehow I managed to do my job and finished writing. It was based on a job satisfaction scale, and I applied it to my school. People kept telling me that the staff would rate the satisfaction as high since I was their supervisor. Of course, in Great Neck, no one was intimidated by that. Each secondary school had its own culture based on staff, students, administration, and parents. He never tried to create uniformity in the 5 secondary schools. One was the village school, which you heard mentioned before, a totally alternative school. A woman, a math teacher, had taken several years leave to care for her children. She came to see me with 1 or 2 of those children wrapped around her. When I told him that I would probably not grant her more time since the curriculum had changed so much, Bill was aghast. You, a woman and a mother, would have no sympathy for her? I granted her another year on the condition that she take some courses in the new curriculum. I never in my life worked with anyone so smart, so compassionate, so intuitively understanding. Bill just never got anything wrong. When we were between principals at South High, Bill took the challenge and was a superintendent/principal for several months. Nothing was too daunting for him. He incorporated music in the morning as students entered school, and it set an incredible mood in the building for the day. I learned more in a month working for Bill Shine than I did in 4 years at NYU's Educational Administration doctorate. My grandson was just graduated from North High and was granted the William A. Shine Award. I asked what it stood for. He really had no concrete answer, and neither do I. I think it may be the best award the school can possibly grant. It represents kindness, genuine goodness, supreme intelligence, and compassion. I hope Adam can live up to some of those qualities. Thank you, Arlette, and we miss you. And I'm now delighted to introduce another musical performance. This is the South High Ensemble. You can see it in your program. They just performed Così fan tutte not too long ago. So several of the students involved and musicians are going to perform the Terzatino. And I want to thank Janine, Michael, the singers, and all of you who made this happen. Thank you. That was gorgeous. Thank you. And thank you to Mozart. Our next speaker, you heard that after Bill had retired from Great Neck, He was very fortunate to get a call to be the interim superintendent in Manhasset, and he helped to find the perfect superintendent. So I'm delighted that Charlie Cardillo is here today, and you'll see why.
Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, again, to the groups that have performed already today and the groups that are going to be performing, any of you who knew Bill Shine knew that he loved the arts, music, and theater. So I could see him smiling right now because he always would be thrilled when he would go to concerts and play productions and so on, and looking at the work, the high-quality work that we've done and what we've already seen today. So thank you again very much for your beautiful music here today. Susan, thank you for giving me the opportunity today to share with you, with Bill's daughter, Bill's son Jack, and with everyone present here today and on the live stream, just how beloved Bill Shine was in Manhasset. It's my privilege to share heartfelt thoughts shared to me by several people from the Manhasset community, several of whom are here today. Cindy Cardinal, former former Manhasset Board of Education member and president, who is currently overseas with her husband Dan, offered an account that captures the essence of Bill and his years in Manhasset. In reading the following, I will be speaking in the first person for Cindy. I'll never forget the day close to 20 years ago when the Manhasset Board of Education met Dr. William A. Shine. We had decided as a board we were going to make a change in leadership, so we went about the process of hiring an interim superintendent of schools while we conducted a full-blown superintendent search. Our board member, Debbie Klein, was friendly with Judy Bosworth, who was on the Great Neck board when Bill was superintendent there. And Judy told her that Bill, who had retired from Great Neck after many years of service as their superintendent, might be available to serve as our interim. So when Bill walked through the door, I think we all wondered what this man in his 70s would bring to the table and whether he was up to the task of serving our rather demanding community here in Manhasset. But once Bill started speaking about his approach to the board-superintendent relationship, the superintendent as a sixth member of the board working with them as well as for them, and the way he would tackle the job, we were all won over and his age became irrelevant. One of his responses was particularly memorable. When we asked him why he wanted the job here in Manhasset, he responded, "I'm bored. I've been a superintendent for so many years, I never had time to develop any hobbies." We were happy to provide relief from his boredom. Bringing him turned out to be one of the best decisions we made in Manhasset. And Cindy went on to say, "I was so fortunate to have been mentored as a board member by Bill Shine. Anything I did right, I did because I learned at the foot of the master. He was our superintendent when I was elected president of the board, and he generously agreed to stay on as an assistant to the superintendent after we hired Charlie Cardillo with Bill's guidance and insistence, and as our superintendent." And then in itself illustrates another aspect of Bill Shine. He had a very little ego, and you've heard that several times tonight as people have spoken. He was a man of great humility. This was a man who was a finalist for superintendent in Boston. He was revered in Great Neck, and we're seeing that here today. I had heard stories of his kindness and brilliance when my kids went to doctor's appointments in Great Neck well before I ever met him. And yet, he was happy to serve as the assistant to the superintendent under a man who had no years of experience as superintendent of schools. I think he saw in Charlie some of himself he saw some of himself. Lack of ego, putting the kids first philosophy, and the incredible work ethic. Bill would stay with us for several years, mentoring and supporting all of the central office staff. It was a joy watching Charlie and Bill work together as true collaborators, and it was a joy to work with them in leading our district to a place where morale was high, contracts were negotiated without rancor, and budgets were transparent, and true interest was taken in kids. Bill had an incredible moral compass. My kids will tell you that during the time I worked with Bill, I would ask myself, what would Bill Shine do when faced with any sort of moral dilemma, whether it concerned the board of my regular life? So Cindy concluded by saying, I could go on talking about Bill for hours, we all can, but he had a huge impact on my life, as I'm sure if you're sitting here that he did on your life as well. Bill will not be forgotten. Thank you, Susan, for sharing him with us. But Susan, as I talk to you, as we've talked several times since Bill's passing, we have several members who have shared from the team at Manhasset some of their thoughts, so I'm going to quickly go through those. Charlie Leone, who was a teacher here at Great Neck during the Shine years, and then who became an excellent assistant principal during the Shine years at Manhasset, said, I found that one of the most significant marks of Dr. Shine's extraordinary leadership was his seemingly paradoxical ability to be one of the respected and demanding of leaders, while also being one of the gentlest and one of the most forgiving of leaders. He believed in second chances. And Patrick O'Reilly, an outstanding K-12 coordinator at Manhasset for many years of ELA, during the Shine years said, Dr. Shine was a consummate educator with a brilliant intellect, a firm but fair style, a child-centered educational philosophy. Working with Bill was a sense enlisting in a pedagogical army. And while some days I definitely felt like a boot camp, the rewards of working with him inevitably made me feel as though I earned the rank of a 4-star general. Thanks to his experience, expertise, guidance, and compassion, Dr. Shine remains a role model and educator with qualities unparalleled and a legacy unsurpassed. A human interest story came from Robert Gezik, retired principal from Shelter Rock Elementary School. He recalled this very special moment with Bill. After Bill had retired from Manhasset, Robert had just returned to work after having bypass surgery. And to Robert's surprise, Dr. Shine showed up at his office door. Note, Robert wasn't expecting Bill, as Bill had already retired. Bill asked Robert, how are things going? And Robert immediately launched into updates on the reading program, gifted and talented, other things with program. And with the love and kindness of a father, Bill stopped Robert. And he redirected him by asking, I meant, how are you doing? And they proceeded to talk about Robert's health, which Dr. Shine was very concerned about. And Bill advised Robert to slow down, pace yourself, and ease back into the workflow. And Robert was deeply touched by Bill's personal concern about his well-being. He said, I will never forget that day or the great man who showed so much love. Jane Grappone, a terrific director of guidance at Manhasset, recalled when she first met Dr. Shine, she was immediately reminded of Gandalf, the wizard from the Lord of the Rings. Although widely regarded for his wisdom, Gandalf was also known for his tutelage and encouragement, and it was these qualities, as well as his wisdom, that Dr. Shine shared with her. In no small way, Dr. Shine changed the course of Jane's professional life, for she said, I will be forever grateful. We are all blessed by his presence. So speaking for myself, without Bill's support and wisdom during my early years as superintendent in Manhasset, I would never have been able to serve the Manhasset community for 12 great years I was there. Bill and I spoke early in the morning. We were in at 6:30. We spoke during the midday, late in the afternoon, into the evening. And we spoke about various topics, whether it be students, education, sports, family. He spoke about everything. He was one of the most brilliant individuals we've ever known. He was a Renaissance person. Bill had genuinely believed in the mantra, students first. And within this mantra, Bill had an especially large place in his heart for all children, but in particular, for the economically disadvantaged students. His commitment to the least favored was such that Bill retired from Manhasset at the age of 83, and he continued to work, taking a position in the Roosevelt School for several years, where he once again made a meaningful difference in the lives of students and the staff that he touched. On a personal note, Bill and I had an extraordinarily close professional relationship, while also forming a very close bond as friends, a relationship that lasted well beyond the years in Manhasset. Finally, Anthony Ambrosio, who's sitting out here today, great HR and Director of Performing Arts and Theater, said, Dr. Shine was an incredible leader, a mentor who inspired us to do our best. His integrity was unmatched, as was his drive to support those students most in need. His influence continues to this day. We're all better for having the good fortune of his counsel. In closing, these testimonials from former Manhasset administrators and members of the board clearly suggest that Manhasset's district motto, excellence through effort, was written with Bill Shine in mind, because he embodied the qualities of both effort and excellence. Simply put, Bill loved education and embraced the efforts of board members. We have several here today, Regina Rule, Pat Aiken, administrators, teachers, staff, students, and parents, all toward the goal of creating excellence. Bill, today we fondly remember you, and we, the Manhasset community, say you have left us your unparalleled legacy, and for this we are eternally grateful. For us, you will always embody excellence through effort. Once again, Susan, you are an incredible person. You've touched my heart. You've touched Bill's heart. He spoke so much of you as we, shared our time together. Thank you for putting this together. Barbara, Jack, we spoke again earlier today. Again, thank you very much for really an incredible human being we all could be so, so proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. That was very touching. Our next speaker, as you can see on the program, is Joe Rutkowski, who is playing multiple roles today. Joe and Bill and I became very close, and Joe always sent these accordion playing greetings on any birthday or anniversary, or he had everything down, and of course they were sent at 4 o'clock in the morning because it's Joe and he doesn't sleep. So I asked him to say a few words today. Thank you.
This is my favorite picture of Bill Shine with his friend John L. Miller. If you can't make it out, you must have seen it on the internet or anywhere, but if you can't make it out, email me and I'll send you a copy of it. Every time I get an email from Michael Schwartz, I get so jealous, because right under Michael Schwartz's signature it says William A. Shine. I wish I could have that. Now, Michael, I know that you met him first, but I'm still jealous. However, right under my name, it says John L. Miller. So I'm plenty proud of that. And we're all honored this afternoon that the closest people to those two great men are right here in our presence, Susan Shine and John L. Miller's daughter, Melanie Miller. In the 1980s, this Great Neck music program did not match the other stellar departments of the Great Neck Public Schools created by John L. Miller and sustained and grown by Bill Shine. It didn't come close to competing with the music programs in the surrounding schools on Long Island. On May 22nd, 1991, North High Principal Carol Clark, North Middle Principal Pat Sullivan, retiring music teacher Earl Higgins, and Superintendent Bill Shine went to Stuyvesant High School in New York City for my demo lesson for Great Neck. It was the first year band practice class. We did nothing but scales and exercises, singing and me calling on individual students to play alone. After the class ended, the two principals then left the room to speak to my supervisor, to pump him, to find out what this Rutkowski was like with the students, with the parents, with the other teachers, while Shine and Higgins stayed in the classroom to watch 2 more classes that I was teaching. I was thrilled when I was told by Arlette Sanders that I was hired. But my first 2 years in Great Neck was a baptism by fire. Many of the parents wanted to tar and feather me because I was making their kids play scales instead of songs, and that they weren't allowed to wear their baseball caps. On the first day I taught, at Great Neck North High School the Period 9 band class. Many of the students told me that they didn't want to come to class every day and they would not play scales and they refused to take off their baseball caps. I later learned that baseball caps were an important part of the adolescent culture. On the second day of classes, I tried to teach the Period 8 orchestra class of 16 students the C major scale so that we could start rehearsing Mozart's Jupiter Symphony. Superintendent Bill Shine, the tall, retired U.S. Marine Lieutenant Colonel, not Lieutenant, not Colonel, but Lieutenant Colonel, walked in and stood right over there. I saw my whole life pass before my eyes. I figured he's like the football coach, the head coach, looking to see how the new quarterback that he hired could throw some long passes. Well, the students sounded terrible, and we barely got through one octave of the C major scale by the time the class ended. Shine came over to me, and I thought he was going to say, "Rutkowski, you're fired." But he said, "You're giving them exactly what they need. Discipline." When I told him that half the band students in the next period wanted to drop, he offered to speak to them. I actually audio taped that class, as I often and still do, and transcribed his very words to the class of 50 band students. This is what Bill Shine said on that second day of classes back in September 1991. "There is a big difference between discipline and a power relationship. You have chosen instrumental music. We intend to have a serious instrumental music program. Discipline is necessary to do the job properly. If that discipline is difficult for you to adhere to, if you can't do that, for whatever reason, then by all means, drop out. I don't care if there are only 5 of you left." And his hand, the fingers were like really long. 5 of you. "But if you stay with the music program, wonderful. But discipline is a very essential part of it." He then told the students to take off their baseball caps, which was part of the new discipline. The caps came off. He went on, "One of the things that has ruined, and at that point, I have it on tape, someone crashed a cymbal, and Bill Shine said, 'I hope that was a mistake,' and the kid said, 'Yes, it was.' And he said, 'Okay, good.' So he went on. So, one of the things that has ruined the music program in Great Neck is the inability to work as a group. To give up our individuality for the group is very difficult for us. It is absolutely essential in any musical organization. I wish you well. No hard feelings if you don't want to be part of this. If you do, you're in for quite an adventure. Carry on, Mr. Rutkowski." He left. The caps went back on. Next day, half the band dropped. Dr. Shine would visit room 218 on a regular basis, often with Mrs. Shine and once with his son. Even after his retirement as superintendent, it was a blessing that it seemed he'd show up every time I was having a hard day. I found out later because parents were calling to complain about me. And Shine would say, "Just keep doing what you're doing." It was Bill Shine's constant support and care that helped me persevere. All my other colleagues kept telling me to go easy, stop being so rigid, lighten up. But I'm so glad I listened to Bill Shine. I'm sure Susan's experience as a performing musician, she sung at Carnegie Hall more than most musicians. She was a driving force, I'm sure, that led Bill to search, discover, and recruit a collection of music educators that have established a district music program that rivals any other on Long Island or in the state. So thank you, Susan. And every time I walk into room 218 at North High, I say, "Thank you, Bill Shine, for bringing me to Great Neck, and thank you for standing by me right up until the last time I saw you."
That's a hard act to follow. I'm very grateful that a former student with whom Bill was very close was willing to say a few words today. Ben Rosoff he's a special person, and we have stayed in touch since he graduated. I haven't done the math, but a while ago, and I'm very pleased to introduce Benjamin Rosoff.
Thank you. Hey everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. So hold on.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
Put it up a little bit.
Thank you. Okay, here we go. Dr. Shine was a wonderful friend. I was one of the first students with autism to be educated in this school district. It wasn't always easy, but I wanted to fit in, do all the things that other kids did, and to succeed. When I first met Dr. Shine, I was in third grade. He came to see me in speech language class and asked me, "What day is it?" "I don't know," I said. I usually said that if I didn't process a question quickly enough. He sat through the lesson, and on the way out, he asked again, "Ben, what day is it?" "Tuesday," I answered, and went back to class. He knew I knew the answer. Superintendent was just a big word to me. All I knew about Dr. Shine was that he was important and he was kind. I was lucky enough to get to know much more about him each year. He came to visit me at the district summer program and sat with me at lunchtime. I visited him in his office. He took walks with me and showed me how the middle school building was connected to the high school. He read to me a book called Martha Walks the Dog. He was amazing when he narrated the story, especially when he said, "Bad dog." He showed me pictures of his family, and he always asked how things were going in school. To tell you the truth, school is hard. I had to work harder and longer than everyone else. Dr. Shine knew it and encouraged me. In 6th grade, I had the idea to celebrate his birthday, and he agreed to have a party. I invited some friends to come to the Phipps building, and he invited some of his. I think everyone was surprised that I could run the party that well at the time. We would talk, watch funny videos, eat chocolate cake, and have some fun. Dr. Shine knew that was important, and we continued the tradition even after he retired. Dr. Shine always said I was one of his best students. I know it wasn't because I was the smartest or won the most awards, but because I exceeded expectations. He understood that not everything about a person is discovered in high school, and that limits shouldn't be set then either. We spend our whole lives finding out what we can do. Dr. Shine never doubted people. He was always thinking about what people could do and how he could help. He always knew it was worth believing that someone could succeed. I am proud that I was one of the people he believed in. I graduated from college, made documentary films, interviewed celebrities, the Secretary General of the UN, and rang the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange. I became a member of SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity. I have appeared off-Broadway, and Dr. Shine got to see me perform in 2 different shows. What he didn't know was that I had leading roles, and was so impressed that I could do it. I know that he enjoyed the shows, but he really enjoyed seeing me succeed. The last time I saw Dr. Shine was on Thanksgiving. It feels good to know that I was able to sit and talk with him and Mrs. Shine on that day because I was very thankful to have him as a friend for so many years. Dr. Shine had a long life and accomplished so many things. I'm proud that the high school was named after him, and I'm proud that he was honored by the school. I miss him very much. I'm really sad for the loss. I remembered an assignment that I did in school when we were learning about how authors choose characters' names and their meanings. The name that I chose to write about was William. It means strong protector. That's what a true friend is. Dr. Shine, we all love you very much. Thank you very much for all the things you did for me and for giving me the opportunity to have the education I needed. Thank you for helping me be included, accepted, and successful.
Thank you, Ben. That was very moving. Thank you. We'll now have another musical piece. And I thank Maverick Williams, a student who's going to sing Schumann Lieder, and Pam Levy, who's going to accompany him. Thank you. Just so you know, Maverick is only a junior, so it's very impressive. Thank you. Our final speaker before our final musical selection is someone very special to me and to Bill. Rabbi Whittam was the first community leader, you know, that could have included lots of people, but anyway, he was the first person to reach out and have lunch with Bill and get to know him, and then us, when Bill was first appointed. And we've been very close friends with him and his family ever since then, and I'm just so grateful. So, Rabbi Whittam, thank you.
First, wasn't Susan a great moderator today? Let's clap for Susan. And I must say, most moving today is just to have his picture here. Touched by his warmth that you can see in his face, welcoming all of us. And that's the way he always was. And I'm grateful that this picture has been displayed today. A very thoughtful thing for all of us. And also grateful to you, Susan, for inviting me to say a few words about Bill and you, whom I've known even before he became superintendent here of our school system. And that friendship through the years could be 24 years now or more, has brought us even closer together, all of us, and we're grateful for that, all of that. Will you come today to celebrate Bill's life? And I would say with Ben, who spoke brilliantly, as did all of the others, and we're thankful for all of the words that we've heard today, and the beautiful music that helps to inspire us. Ben chooses the word for Bill friend, and I think that word works for all of us. And Ben said it, and I repeat it. I must also say together with Ben that I too appreciate, thankful to that wise school board years ago, in their wisdom, agreeing that this place should be named for Dr. Shine as a tribute and as an honor to him. So we're thankful for them, and we should applaud for that school board. Now let me tell you something about Bill, my friend. I always found him to be inordinately bright, provocative, challenging, and he spoke eloquently. And the word eloquent is the right word for him. Not only words, but Bill knew how to listen eloquently. And there is a kind of eloquent listening. He listened with a whole heart. And then when he spoke, after listening, he spoke his mind with his own informed, honest convictions, never speaking superficially. That wasn't his way. But had a way of choosing his words carefully, and would embellish those words with wit and wisdom in such a way that he would be able to touch the minds and hearts of young and old alike, and that was his way. Whether he spoke at our synagogue or whether he spoke at groups, that was his way. Choosing the words artfully and caringly, and always meaning to touch a life, and he did that every time I ever heard him speak. Bill also had a way of connecting with people, not only with school board members, which he did wonderfully, the administrative staff that admired him, and all the faculty, but he had a way of reaching the student body as well. And our superintendent just spoke earlier today. She spoke about the way she walked through the halls with him. I remember walking through the halls with him. We would stroll through North Senior High or one of the junior high schools, and students along the way, they would stop, they would smile, and he would know every one of their names, and every one of those students felt special because he remembered everyone's name. It was so moving and touching to see the relationship of a superintendent with each kid that walked through the corridors. I remember that very well, and how well he conducted himself. Not only did they come to respect him, in fact, many of them came to love him, and I saw that as well. Ben is an example of that, and how close they came, other students as well. They came to know him and loved him. Not only did they, but their parents and also their teachers. That was part of Bill's way. I remember also when a principal of a school had to be away or left the school, who took over that high school or that junior high school? Didn't bring in a substitute. He took it over. He walked in and he took it over, and the students loved him for doing that. Or if a teacher was absent, who took the class? Bill would take the class, and he loved coming into the classroom. Again, being with the kids. That was part of his way. I remember all of that. His passing has left all of us with a feeling of emptiness, I'm sure. But the ones who have suffered the most through all of this was the ones whom he loved the most. His beloved Susan, with whom he shared and dared and did, and saw him through good days and not so good, and she was there for him. And also his children, Barbara and Jack, who were also there for him, and whom he loved and who loved him dearly. The sense of emptiness, the void that we may feel, must be filled, not only for them but for all of us. Must be filled with the memories, rich and real, about his life. Memories of little nameless acts of kindness or love, or the way we saw how he understood the truth about situations and people. Now, Bill will be kept in a special, sacred corner of our hearts, never to be lost and never ever to be forgotten. So we can count ourselves fortunate to have had him with us for as long as we did. But accepting his loss with some kind of grace has been challenging nevertheless. But we ought not to despair, and let me tell you why. For here amongst us, in minds awakened by his, in spirits uplifted by his, in hearts gentled by his, he now lives with us this day and every day. The film clip that we saw earlier, I hope it did for you what it did for me. It somehow made him present today, hearing his own voice and seeing him actively vibrant and vital, as we are always to remember him. So we're thankful for that, for his being a presence today in our ceremonies, in our celebration of his life, present this day and hopefully every day for each and every one of us. In gratitude for Bill Shine, may his memory always be for a blessing. And thank you.
Before I introduce our last piece, which, as you see, is music, I want to once again say thank you, thank you, thank you to Dr. Prendergast, Colleen, Kaneko, the other people who were helpful in putting this together, and you really made it great. And I thank you. You were as sensitive as anybody could possibly be, including, of course, Rabbi Whittam. So you figured out from the Marines coming at the beginning that Bill was a Marine. And someone mentioned that he was a lieutenant colonel. The Marines were extremely important to him. I don't know exactly how many years he was in the Marines, but he ran down as soon as he graduated from high school to enlist, and you can figure out the rest. So we're closing with, you can see it in the program, the Semper Fidelis March by John Philip Sousa, which is traditionally known as the Marine Corps Official March. And I think it would be nice if we would all stand when the ensemble comes out to play. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for your kindness and your attention. Thank you. I'll just add that he really loved that piece. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming and staying, and to the speakers, special thanks, and everybody who participated. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.